You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
I'm Drew Leiter.
And I'm Cletus Jacobs.
And welcome to episode 5 of the Legends of the DCU Podcast. Tonight we're talking Secret 6, numbers 1 through 6, and The Sandman, Season 2, Episode 5, The Song of Orpheus. But before we get into that, let's talk some DC news. All right, Cletus, first up for DC news. DC is launching 2 new Absolute titles. First up, Absolute Green Arrow by Pornsak Pichetsot and Raphael Albuquerque, which is launching May 2026. The second title is Absolute Catwoman by Shea Grayson, Scott Snyder, and Bengal, launching June 10th. So, 2 additions to the Absolute universe, and I'm curious about both of them. I know Catwoman debuted in Absolute Batman, because I saw something online about that. So, we'll be coming across it soon, I'm pretty sure. And then I'm very curious what they're doing with...
We already did, Drew.
We already met Absolute Catwoman?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot then.
In the Bane story.
Oh, yes. You're right. We did come across Absolute Catwoman in the Bane story.
We will. You're right, Drew. We will probably see her in the past at some point.
I forgot we'd seen her already. That's right. She popped up briefly.
She's a fairly integral part of that story arc. I mean, she doesn't have a ton of screen time, I would agree, but I mean, she's pretty present in that story.
Yeah, and we just reviewed that not too long ago. I totally forgot she was in it already.
Fundamentally, though, Drew, I agree. I really liked what we got from her. I mean, obviously, we had seen Selena kind of hinted and teased at in some of the flashbacks to the group, but then her look is very cool. I like that they incorporated the black mask helmet thingy kind of into her costume. Very interested to see what they do with their series focusing on her. In Absolute Green Arrow, I'm also extremely intrigued what they're going to do because he has also popped up in something we haven't gotten to yet. And I'm quite curious where they're going to go.
Yeah, I'm curious what they're going to do with it too, because it's on our schedule for next week. And I've already read the issues. I'm very curious about it myself. So we'll be discussing that next week, though. But yeah, several Absolute titles on our schedule for next week that I'm excited about. So I'm curious what they're going to do with Absolute Green Arrow, because if you knew what I knew, and you may already know what I know,
do, yeah,
because you probably got it spoiled.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about that next week.
Drew, I am so in on the Absolute universe. It is so interesting. And they've kept it so compelling with each of these characters. Obviously, with each new title that you add, you run the risk of one of them not really being quite to the same level that the other ones are at. And I mean, there are varying degrees of success that all of these books have hit, but they've all personally thought any of them have been outright bad. And that's impressive. I mean, that's obviously a key part of this line being as successful as it is. They're doing something extremely interesting with the universe. They're putting out some really cool and different looks at characters and really committing to letting the writer and artist do kind of whatever they want with it, because it's this new universe and they can kind of do, whatever. We've gotten some really creative, fun things, and I would expect to get the same stuff with Catwoman and Green Arrow. The thing is, Drew, is it starts to get you a little greedy, and you're like, well, what about, this character and this character? And there's so many possibilities, and it wouldn't shock me if we start to get some more one-shots within this universe where, like, they've done an Absolute Evil that was a single shot focusing on some of the villains that we've seen so far. To my knowledge, I think that's the only one shot that they've had, but I suspect that's not going to be the last.
Yeah, I agree. There's quite a few one shots they could do. So it'll be interesting to see, or miniseries for that fact. They could do some
Yeah.
miniseries introducing characters. Some of the characters they don't have to do ongoings for. They could do miniseries and tell their stories bits by bits or as they need to. There's characters out there that can't carry a regular series, and doing miniseries is, great for those characters.
Or doing it, and I think, Drew, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think some of them they're doing, they're technically ongoing, but they're more in the style of how Image does it, where, the next set of issues come out whenever the creative team is actually done with it. And I want to say Martian Manhunter is an example of that. I don't think they jumped immediately to the next set of issues.
We read that first story arc, and they weren't even starting the next story arc until like December or something. So
Yeah.
I don't even know if it started coming out yet, actually.
And that's how Image has done a lot of, I mean, obviously it's different because it's creator owned, so no one can tell them to put it out beforehand. Whereas DC certainly can push something out if they want to. But, I would argue Image has found a ton of success in, the last couple decades, especially of letting creators tell the story at their pace and at their rate. And I think this absolute universe doesn't have to come out every single week, especially as you start to branch out more. And I think this is an opportunity for them to still do what DC does, right? You still have the weekly stuff coming out in the main universe, but I think absolute for some of the books, obviously like Batman and Wonder Woman, you want those coming out monthly. I get it. But I think some of these books have the ability and potential to technically be ongoings, but periodical, right? Like they pop out for 6 months and then they're off and then they come back. But it keeps the creative vision the same because the creative team stays. You don't get a fill-in artist. I mean, that's my only gripe with some of the books really, Drew, has been when it's a fill-in artist for several of these books because it's just not as good as when it's the main group.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And speaking about artists taking their sweet time, let's move on to our final bit of DC news. Batman number 163 by Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb has now been delayed 9 months, set for a release May 27, 2026. The issue marks the final chapter of Hush 2 Part 1. The delay now overlaps with the new Batman volume by Matt Fraction and Jorge Jimenez, already well underway. Batman number 163 joins a list of Jim Lee's unfinished projects as questions mount over Part 2's future.
There's no way part two gets made, or at least it can't be made with Jim Lee. It just can't. Look, Drew, I get it because his passion is creating comics, but he can't do it anymore. He's got a lot of other stuff on his plate as a DC executive, and that's fair. Like it's okay that that takes up a lot of his time. It should. That's quite the job. I don't begrudge him that at all. What I do begrudge him is that he keeps insisting that he can do that and put out artwork consistently for a book when he has proven over and over and over and over that he can't do it. It's okay that he can't do both. Like it's not a character flaw. The flaw is that he keeps trying. And it's just like, dude, it's not working. And frankly, as an executive, it's an even worse look, Drew, because no other book would be able to get away with this.
That is very true. If Jim Lee wants to draw stuff, he should probably stick to covers.
Or one shots. I think
Yes.
Jim Lee could do a one shot, right? Because it doesn't have to come out until it's done. You don't have to even announce it until it's close, until you're really sure it's about to come out, right? And then you're like, okay, yeah, in 3 months this thing's going to come out when you're like 2 pages away from finishing it, right? He can't do even miniseries anymore. And that's been, this is not new. You and I have talked about this for multiple projects. It's just, his art style is very detailed and is just not, it takes time. Clearly, it's not compatible with the time structure and schedule of a monthly release comic. It's got to just be one shots in the future, Drew, or like you said, covers, because those will sell like hotcakes. People still love Jim Lee's art style. I get it. I understand why they're looking to do these stories because they know in theory they'll sell well because people want more Jim Lee art. I get it. I totally get it. It's not possible though. So it's infuriating when they keep trying. And then you get stories like this. And you and I, before the podcast, were talking. Jeff Johns did this too with a couple of his projects. Three Jokers, I think, being the most egregious one. And I think in a very similar boat to this one, Drew, where Three Jokers ended up being a part one that will never get a part two. That story was just going to remain unfinished. And I have no clue where they were going to go or what they were going to do with that story. It's an extremely unsatisfying read. It's a very pretty book. Jason Fabok is a great artist. Jeff Johns tells an interesting story that gets you kind of, I mean, I don't like some of the character choices he makes, but like, I don't know where it was going to go, but we'll never know. We will never see part two of that book. It's the same thing with this Hush, it's like this Hush 2 thing has been delayed multiple times. It's not just been this issue. And it's only part one, Drew. It's absurd. And on top of it, we haven't read it yet, so we can't give our opinions on it. But the general reaction to this book has been very poorly received. Very poorly received. There is no shot that this story gets finished.
Yeah, I'm afraid you're correct on that. But it's just disappointing to see that it's pushed back again, because I tried to have it on the schedule before and then it got delayed. So
I think the thing that gets me the most, Drew, is the audacity to make it the ongoing Batman title. Like, you couldn't even make it a standalone miniseries. The lack of awareness, and like I said, the audacity to do that is just astounding to me. Especially when they knew, Drew, that they had Matt Fraction lined up to take over, who is a very in-demand writer. People were very enthused and excited about seeing his take on the character. And you pushed it back. And at this point, he's going, right? His story's just rolling. But, like, they pushed that back. A book that it's the book. It is the flagship book for DC. I know it should be Justice League or Superman, arguably, but it's Batman. We all know it's Batman, right? And you put on a creative team that you knew was not capable of finishing a story on a monthly basis. It's just staggering to me.
well, I could tell the audience we will probably I've seen some spoilers for the new Batman series already, and there's some stuff that's going on. I want to review it, so we may jump ahead and review it. You can almost guarantee we're going to jump ahead and review it because I've been itching to read it. So
I am that's the other thing that's been frustrating me too, is because I'm extremely excited to get to Matt Fraction's run. I am personally a big fan of his stuff. His Hawkeye run is one of my favorite superhero runs I've ever read. I really enjoy some of the independent stuff he's done for Image. He's a writer that I personally really like, and I've been very eager to see him with the Batman book. Instead, we've been sitting here twiddling our thumbs, waiting for Jim Lee to finish drawing artwork he'll never finish.
yeah, I'm afraid we're just going to have to move on. All right, well, that wraps up DC news for this week. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll do our comics talk.
We have a weekly podcast called Earth Station Trek where we talk about Star Trek. So we'll go live on Thursday evenings on YouTube, and then it's available after the fact as a podcast, either talking about the latest Star Trek episode or a legacy Star Trek topic.
We have been doing this podcast for 4 years now.
This is the first true Earth Station Trek live panel.
This is so exciting.
Yeah.
This is a milestone. Hi.
Your mics are really loud, and we're doing the panel on the other side.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Okay. We'll be quiet. Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for being quiet.
And we're back. Let's talk Secret 6, issues 1 through 6. Amanda Waller disappears from Belle Reve without a trace. No alarms, no break-in, nothing. Just gone. Because Waller knows the identities of almost every hero on Earth, this isn't just a mystery, it's a crisis. So Jon Kent, Jay Nakamura, and Dreamer decide to track her down themselves. Their only lead is Black Alice, who's locked up and refuses to talk unless they break her out. They don't like it, but they need answers, so they free her. She leads them to the House of Secrets in Vermont, this creepy, shifting mansion where they run into Deadshot and Catman. Naturally, everyone fights first and talks later. But once they stop trying to kill each other, Deadshot drops the bomb. Checkmate took Amanda Waller, and that's when this strange group realizes they're stuck working together. They become the new, very reluctant Secret Six. They head to Club Checkmate in Washington, D.C. and confront Senator Doug Graveport. And before they can get anything out of him, Banshee attacks. The whole place erupts and the team barely escapes with their lives. From there, the story shifts to Dreamer, Jay, and Deadshot infiltrating a hidden checkmate base. That's where they find Amanda Waller, but she's not the Waller anyone remembers. Her mind has been wiped clean. All her memories, all her secrets, and all her knowledge of superhero identities gone. She's basically been reset to the kind, hopeful woman she used to be before life hardened her. Now, the mission isn't just about finding her, it's also about getting her out alive while she's completely vulnerable. Meanwhile, Black Alice pushes herself too far, channeling the power of an actual god to help the team. And as the pressure builds, tension explodes between Jay and Dreamer. Dreamer starts to realize Jay isn't just trying to save Waller, he's chasing revenge. And he wants payback on everyone who's ever hurt him. And he's slipping into a darker place that scares her. By the end, the emotional fallout hits hardest. Jay and John's relationship falls apart, and the two go their separate ways. The Secret Six disband almost as quickly as they're formed, leaving behind a rescued but completely changed Amanda Waller, a fractured team, and a sense that Checkmate's plans are far from over. I probably made that sound a little more dramatic than it was, but
Yeah, I guess.
The thing I didn't like about this miniseries is the constant bickering. They spent more time fighting amongst themselves than actually getting anything done.
But they never actually form a team. That's the thing. Like, the comic keeps trying to show you the lineup as if they're the team, but they don't. They inexplicably end up in the same location, which is not really true. My biggest complaint going through this is there were frequently times where stuff would happen and I wouldn't understand why that happened. At one point, Catman throws a knife into Deadshot's head and he pulls it out as if it's fine. Drew, I don't personally understand how that happened. Does Deadshot not, is there a status quo with him I don't know about? Maybe. It's not explained to me. How did they end up where Catman and Deadshot were in the first place? I don't fully understand. Catman and Jon Kent disappear for like an issue and a half and then come back out of nowhere, contributing almost nothing to the plot. Catman starts to beat the absolute crap out of Deadshot and then just stops. And Deadshot's fine. No explanation. Like, this was just awful, Drew. There's not a single part of this that I thought was well done. It's just a terrible comic.
I'm not going to argue with that because I didn't care for it much myself. And I don't know why they were dead set on breaking up John and Jay. I don't know. I don't know if they have plans going forward with John. It felt to me, without John, Jay's character is not interesting. That interesting to me. You know what I mean?
But I think to me, Drew, it read like somebody that was insistent that Jay was an interesting enough character on his own right that he didn't need John. And it felt almost like a dare of like, oh, you don't like John or Jay because he's just John's love interest. Well, here, now you're going to get Jay all by himself. And the real answer, Drew, is that he's going to get forgotten. I'm sure he's going to pop up and they're going to do something with his story briefly at some point. But if they don't get back together, his character's going to go away. It's just the truth. This is what happens to those types of characters. It is what it is. It's a total misreading of the situation.
Yeah, and them taking away Waller's memories. I mean, I'm sure she could come back at some point.
Well, yeah, because the memories are still there. Now Jay has them. So at some point, she's going to reacquire them from Jay. We'll have Waller back, and we'll just all go back to whatever. Drew, there was just nothing I could dig my teeth into with this story. Things just keep happening. Silver Banshee, I swear, was in a relationship with Jimmy Olsen.
That's what I was confused. I was confused about that. I was like, is this the same character? I wasn't even sure it was the same character because I thought the same thing. I was like, wait a minute, isn't this Jimmy Olsen's girlfriend? And hasn't she, given up her evil ways pretty much? I don't know. I was confused about that. I was like, did the writer not get the memo?
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
But they never called her the Silver Banshee. They just called her Banshee. So I was like, I wasn't sure it was the same character. Yeah, I have to agree with you. Very confusing and not that good of a miniseries. The only consequences from this is John going single again, pretty much. And then, like you said, if they
Jay's
do
clearly
anything,
being turned into a villain. And that's the thing. The thing that I read a little blurb from the writer on this, and they said they thought it would be interesting because in their minds, you had this intersection where Dreamer, Jon, and Jay could all become villains. And so you intersect with this Secret Six team that is all former or current villains, and you can see where their paths go from there. But like, can we all be real for a second? Like, they're not. The only one of those that was going to become a villain was Jay. We know that, right? Like,
yeah, you can't turn Jon into a villain.
he's not, and we know that he's not going to. And I just don't. Drew, I just had so many. There were multiple times where I didn't follow what was going on in the story because it felt like it just happened randomly out of sheer happenstance, and things just weren't explained, or they would go, or like. I will admit, Drew, I am very unfamiliar with Secret Six stuff. I've never really read those books. I know that they're well thought of, especially the Gail Simone run that uses these characters that we saw, Black Alice, Catman, and Deadshot amongst them. I know that that's a really popular one. I got to be honest with you, Drew. I don't know anything about them. And so, like, when we're getting stuff that seemed to be very strongly hinting that Catman and Deadshot were in some sort of relationship, I was like, oh, that seems very foreign to me. But they were like, I can't, deeply hinting doesn't even directly say it, Drew. I mean, they felt like they were almost outright saying they were in a relationship, and then Jon tries to say that, and Catman very succinctly says we're not, and I'm like, well, that doesn't jive with what you just showed me. But the problem is, Drew, I don't have any context as a new reader, which I feel like this was, I guess, not meant for. This felt like this was meant for people who are Secret Six readers. I didn't know what the truth of that was. I was like, are we making this up? Is this a new dynamic between the two of them that this writer thinks would be interesting? Is this a pre-existing thing? And it's more of a, like, there's smoldering going on, but they've never actually been, like, I don't know, Drew. And it's not explained. There's just nothing there that gives you any sort of deeper context.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever read any Secret Six stuff before either. So this is my first go around with them. And like you said, it felt like they were trying to reference a history, but I didn't know what it was either. It would be interesting to know from a Secret Six fan how this rates compared to other issues or other stories before.
Well, because the Gail Simone stuff is very, very highly regarded, and this was bad. I gotta say, Drew, I understand that they are continually trying to push Dreamer as a character that's like, a big new creation for this, era and generation, but it's just, they got to put somebody on that can write a book, because I have no problem with the character, Drew. I am not opposed in any way to getting some good Dreamer stories, but she's been in some absolute clunkers.
Yeah. Weren't we introduced to Dreamer on Supergirl?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the character had already existed, but yes.
Yeah. I remember liking her on Supergirl, so I haven't liked her as much in the comics. She hasn't been written as well.
But I don't think it's not really, for me, it's not really been a matter of her character being good or bad. It's been the
story she's in.
Have just been terrible.
All right. Anything else you want to say about this before we move on?
No, it's disappointing that there's some interesting things as a follow-up to Absolute Power that they could have done with this miniseries, sorry. And they just didn't, Drew. And it's a bummer. This was not good.
I agree with you there. All right. Well, that wraps up our comic books talk for this week. Let's take a short break. And when we come back, we'll talk to Sandman.
There are a lot of great podcasts that review Doctor Who episodes in order. The Earth Station Who podcast is not one of them. Just like the Doctor, we never know where or when we'll end up, but we'll have a lot of fun talking about it. From classic Who to new series and big finish, join the Earth Station Who crew wherever fine podcasts are found. Earth Station Who is a founding member of the ESO Network.
And we're back. Let's talk Sandman Season 2, Episode 5, The Song of Orpheus. Dream stares at the destruction of the fire from last episode and then returns home. Lucienne is surprised that Lord Morpheus is back already. Lucienne asks about his quest, and Morpheus reveals that he has no desire to find his brother. However, certain forces are acting counter to their interest in this matter. He asks Lucien to make some inquiries. He wants to know who and why. Lucien suggests that perhaps Morpheus should speak to his brother about why he left. Morpheus believes he tried one time, but Morpheus did not listen, nor did he hear. 1675, London, England. Dream visits his brother, Destruction, in the mortal world. Destruction states he spends an ever-increasing amount of time in the mortal realm. It speaks to him. Destruction has called Dream to the mortal world to show him that one member of the Royal Society has prismed the rays of the sun into beams of discrete color, a man named Newton. Destruction reveals that he is concerned that humans will find a way to cut the atom, and it will be how they destroy each other and themselves. After that comes Destruction's time, the age of fire and flame. Back in the present, Dream wonders why his brother abandoned humanity if he loved him. Lucien replies he wanted to avoid being the one responsible for the destruction and having to carry the shame of that. So we go back into this flashback, and Dream must have not have been paying attention to what his brother was saying, because pretty much flat out told Dream that he was afraid that basically because they could split the atom and had the nuclear power, he was afraid about the destruction of the world. You know, he didn't want to see that. That seems to be the reason why he left.
Yeah, but
Dream
we've seen
seems
that this past version of Dream is just like the world's most dense person. Like it's I have to say, Drew, my one kind of I have really been enjoying this season and the show overall, and the stories that they tell have been really, really interesting. But my one kind of complaint through this, and I don't think it's the show's fault, to be clear, I think they're adapting it as it is in the comic, is that Sandman is like simultaneously Morpheus is like this like incredibly powerful, intelligent being that is also just the dumbest being alive. Like to the point where it's almost unbelievable that he existed for borderline an eternity as just the most thick-skulled person ever. And then he gets imprisoned for what for him would be a speck of a lifetime, right? For him. And all of a sudden he's a completely different, emotionally intelligent person. Like I just don't, Drew, it's hard for me to wrap my head around.
Would you call him stupid, or would you call him naive?
No, I would go straight up stupid. It's just true. There are multiple things where he does here. It's just like, I don't understand how you can tell me that this character is intelligent and then he chooses to act this way. Like it goes beyond just like not a lacking emotional intelligence. It's just like truly incapable of reading any situation beyond the scope of about 5 centimeters from his nose.
So you're telling me he lives in the dream world?
Yeah.
Back in the present, Dream wonders why his brother abandoned humanity if he loved them. Lucien replies he wanted to avoid being the one responsible for the destruction and having to carry the shame of that. Dream argues that there is no shame in fulfilling one's duties. Lucien responds that there is. In doing that, you destroy the ones you love. Dream states he must return to the waking world, and he goes to the funeral for Alvin Robert Caleb Mannering and speaks to Alvin's aunt, who mistakes Dream for his friend. She hands him a book, The Marvelous Land of Oz. Later, Death appears stating it is not right that they put that name on her tombstone. I couldn't remember that character's name from last episode.
Wanda. He changes the grave to
Wanda,
her
thank
name.
you. Oh, does he change it there and I missed it?
Yeah. Yes. So after everybody leaves and he and Death are standing at the grave, he says, I needed to be here to fix the tombstone. I think he also changes the inscription, and that is something where I'd be curious, Drew. I don't know how tightly they're adapting from the comic, if you would see in the comic what it is that they changed the headstone to, because so the original tombstone has her original name, which is clearly an insult to her, right? And so he changes that to Wanda. And then there's also a biblical quote that they have on there that is, again, very much kind of blaming her for her own death, right? Which is just outrageous. And he definitely changes it to something, but I don't think it's fully on camera for us to catch what it is. And I would be personally curious if that's something that was maybe in the comic that you could actually read the full thing. But I could tell that it changed.
I have a feeling they changed it in the comic too, but I don't know for certain because I've never read it. So Dream wants to ask a favor of Death, but Death states she cannot bring them back once they are gone, and Dream knows that. Dream feels like he needs to do something to try and make things right. Dream states it is not too late when they are dead. It is better to focus on the ones that are still with them. Okay, I just want to point out something here. You see Dream trying to ask a favor of Death here. Later in the episode, tells his son that he shouldn't ask a favor of his sister. So I thought that was kind of ironic that he does here. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Death informs Dream that Delirium's sigil has gone dark. Dream has noticed. Delirium has closed her realm. Death wants Dream to go talk to her, but she does not want Delirium to go the same way as Destruction has. Death throws a rock and shatters reality. Dream enters Delirium's realm and is on a subway train. Dream makes his way through the subway train, and when it stops, Dream steps off and into a garden where he finds Delirium hiding behind a sundial. You know what? I'm going to stop here for a second because I want to go back to that throne stowing scene. I thought that was pretty cool how Dream just picked up the stone and just threw it, and then just it looked like it shattered reality. And Dream was able.
That visual effect was really cool, Drew, but I got to admit, one thing that it was shocking that I even noticed it, to be totally honest with you, because I'm never really looking for that stuff. But it was super obvious to me that they were standing in front of a green screen for that entire conversation. I don't know what it was. It was the lighting or the depth. It was so obvious that they were not standing in the field that they were supposed to be standing in. And so then when she turns and throws the rock, I was like, yeah, she just threw that into a green screen. And like obviously the shattering effect is special effects. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the setting that they're in before it turns into the portal was I don't know, Drew, because like I said, I don't look for that stuff because I don't really care, but it just for whatever reason it stuck out to me, and once I noticed, I couldn't stop noticing it. And it really kind of bothered me. I was like, you really couldn't go outside and film this? This had to be in a studio?
That's funny. I didn't notice because honestly, I was busy taking notes, so it wasn't that obvious to me. I was taking my notes. I saw her throw the stone. I was like, hey, that looks cool. And
it did. I totally agree with you.
Dream apologizes for lying to Delirium and breaking her trust. He recognizes that. He is not going to ask her for forgiveness, but he does want to resume their journey together. Instead of seeking the third person on Delirium's list, Dream decides this is a family matter they should take to the family. However, he is not going to call a family meeting. Instead, they are going to visit their elder brother. Often, what Destiny does not say is often more revealing than what he does. When Dream and Delirium arrive at Destiny's realm, he tells them to forget this foolishness and go home. Dream asks Destiny to tell him where their brother is, and Destiny states if he wants answers, then a new pathway will appear in his garden. It is safer for them not to ask. Dream asks again, and Destiny answers that he will only tell them what Ishtar told them when they visited her. If you wish to find their brother, you will need an oracle of the family. Dream's son, Orpheus. Greece, 1700 BC. Dream visits his son because he plans to attend his wedding. Orpheus has a nightmare about his bride, Eurydice, but his father refuses to interpret it for him. Before the ceremony, Dream's family arrives and wishes the happy couple well, except for Destiny. Destiny does not wish. What happens will happen, and that's just the way of it. During the party, Orpheus and Eurydice escape together into the glade in the moonlight. Eurydice is bitten by a poisonous snake, and then Death appears. Orpheus runs to get help, and Death tells Eurydice that it is time. When Orpheus refuses to go to his wife's funeral, Dream tries to convince him to attend and say goodbye. Orpheus states that he can't. Dream states that she is dead, but you're alive, so live. Orpheus argues that Eurydice is still alive in the underworld, and he asks Dream to go to King Hades and Queen Persephone and plead his case. Dream states that they will demand Orpheus's life in exchange for her, and he will not allow that. Dream will not trade his son's life away. Orpheus states that if Dream will not do this for him, then he is no longer his son. Which is kind of ironic, don't you think, Cletus?
Yeah, but again, this is what I'm saying, where he's just the least emotionally intelligent human being of any I've ever seen. It's outrageous, Drew. I did really like this story. I'm obviously, I don't know, Drew, if you've ever read a version of the Greek myth with Orpheus and Eurydice. I really liked their take on it though. And it was fun to see sort of the Sandman spin on that.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. Later, Orpheus tries to take his life, but is stopped by destruction. Orpheus states that if Eurydice and he can't be together in this world, then they can be together in the underworld. Destruction states that this is the stupidest thing that he has ever heard in centuries. He tells Orpheus that he is more in love with the idea of the girl than with the idea of love than the girl herself. Destruction sends Orpheus to see his aunt Death to see if she can help, but there will be conditions. There always are. When Orpheus sees Death, he asks for Eurydice back. Death states that Eurydice doesn't belong to her anymore. She is in the underworld. Death states that Orpheus could go to the underworld and come back, but he could never die. She would have to agree to never take him. He would be immortal. Death grabs a key and opens a door to the underworld, and she wishes Orpheus good luck. As Orpheus journeys into the underworld, he comes across the goddesses of vengeance, punishment, and torment, also known as the Kindly Ones, who often appear as a trio representing the maiden, the mother, and the crone. He is not of the dead and therefore is trespassing. Now, before we move on, did we see the mother, the maiden, the mother, and the crone before in the Sandman series?
Yeah, I'm
I thought
almost
we did.
positive last season we saw them.
I thought we did because I would have swore we talked about them before.
I'm like 99% sure we saw them, Drew.
Okay, that's what I thought. Orpheus states he is seeking an audience with King Hades and Queen Persephone, with whom they serve. King Hades answers and Orpheus greets them. Queen Persephone asks Orpheus if he has a song for them. Orpheus sings them a song of love in Greek about Eurydice, which I got to tell you, Cletus, I didn't understand what he was saying, even though they had the words on the screen. I loved the song. I thought it was beautiful. I thought the actor did a great job.
It's literally just like the song version of what happened. He's singing to them like, I fell in love with Eurydice, we got married, and then she died, and now I'm coming here because I want her to come back with me. Like, it's basically him just singing.
I know, but it was
I agree. No, it's great. I'm right with you, Drew.
King Hades states that Orpheus is disrupting his realm. Queen Persephone states that Orpheus has made the Furies weep. They will never forgive him for that. Orpheus demands that they give him his wife and he will leave this place. King Hades tells Orpheus that he is young and knows nothing of love. Orpheus asks for a chance to prove that his love for Eurydice is stronger than even death itself. Hades grants Orpheus' request and allows his wife to leave with him, but there are conditions, rules, and there is a path that leads to the world above. Follow that path and do not deviate from it. For Eurydice, she will follow as Orpheus' shadow. He may not seek, nor speak, nor turn to look behind until the sun shines upon both of them. Orpheus follows the path indicated by King Hades. When Orpheus sees the light at the end of the tunnel, he speaks Eurydice's name and then turns to look behind him. Eurydice disappears. I gotta tell you, Cletus, I knew that was going to happen, but I was hoping it wouldn't. I was hoping for the happy ending, and I knew it wasn't going to come. And when we turned around, I was like, dumbass, what are you doing? I just felt for the dude.
That's Greek tragedy for you, Drew.
Yeah. I just felt bad when that happened. I was like, dude, what are you doing? They gave you the specific instruction. Follow them. Sometime afterward, Orpheus meets with his mother. She states that Morpheus should have gone to the underworld in his stead, but he will not change. That is why she left him. Orpheus's mother warns him that the sisters of the frenzy, the cult of Dionysus, are coming. Orpheus must leave. Orpheus tells his mother no. This is what he wants. Since death will not take him, they are the only way he can be with Eurydice. Orpheus heads into the foggy, dark woods and allows the sisters of the frenzy to feed on him. They chop off his head and toss it in the water. Dream finds Orpheus's head on the beach. He is still alive because he is immortal. Dream states that he has visited with certain priests on the island in their dreams, and they will soon find him and care for him. He's trying to kill himself, but he's immortal. So now he's just a severed talking head. I guess, like you said, more Greek tragedy, huh?
Yeah. And once again, given the opportunity to do something for someone, Morpheus chooses to walk away.
I know.
And
It's like,
then
what's up with this dude?
retroactively is like, oh, I think maybe I was the jerk in that situation. Like, I think at this point you should just have that blanket apply to any memory that you have. Just assume that you were you were in the wrong in that scenario. Again, I really Drew. I was familiar with the Orpheus and Eurydice story, and seeing this version of it was pretty fun. Spinning it too, so that Orpheus is Morpheus' son was cool. I'm curious to see how he's going to be next episode. I'm sure he's going to have quite similar feelings to Nada,
Yeah, you think?
which I can't blame him. Yeah, it's he's made quite the mess for himself, Drew. No one to blame but himself.
Very true. Dream states he will not see Orpheus again. Orpheus begs for Dream to help him die, but Dream states the endless are forbidden to spill family blood. Dream states that Orpheus was unwise to seek favors from his sister, even though you tried earlier. Orpheus has made his choice. Just as his own life is his own, so too is his death. Back in the present, Destiny reminds Delirium and Dream that those who seek destruction usually find it. Dream tells Delirium that they now will seek an oracle that will tell them where to find their brother in exchange for a boon. He will ask Dream to end his life, and the oracle is his son Orpheus, which we knew that's where it was going. So yeah, I enjoyed this episode as well. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next, but basically this whole episode was about Orpheus and setting up Dream to go see his son next episode. So they're expanding this story arc out a little longer, it feels like, than some of the other episodes we've had. I think the longest so far has been a two episode arc, hasn't it? And this one's turning into at least 3.
I don't know. I mean, I would argue what episode was this?
This is episode 5.
So I don't know. I would say the first 3 were an arc, right? And it sort of bounces into this arc here. I don't know. I thought there was it was the Doctor Dream arc in season 1. I thought ended up being pretty long, right? I think that was the concluding arc for that season.
Yeah, I think you're right on that.
And the other arcs sort of fed into it. Like there were like their own stories, but there were like bits and pieces that kind of kept going, and they culminated in the Doctor Dream story, going all the way back to the first issue, right? And I feel like this is doing something similar, Drew, where like you could argue Lucifer, Dream going to hell to visit Lucifer is its own story, but it sort of then bleeds into his brief ownership of hell, right? And then all of that is sort of setting up the theme for this, which is we saw a lot of that was based off of his guilt for Nada and how he wronged her, and now that theme is coming right back, and we're seeing it here with Orpheus too. So
that's very true. You're right. There is a connective thread through all of this.
But in a way that I like, Drew, where like you are rewarded for watching all of these episodes, but at the same time, you're not getting like 1/6 of the story every time, right? Like you are getting some complete narratives, but the narratives are doing a really good job of building on themselves. It's something that, again, some of the other superhero shows that we watched tried to kind of shift towards the end because they realized that they didn't have a 22-part story to tell. They didn't do a really good job of actually executing on that plan. And I feel like this show has done a really good job. And obviously, of course, they're adapting a story that is already told these stories, but they're doing a good job of actually adapting, right? As opposed to kind of just telling their own story with someone else's characters, which some other Netflix series have been particularly guilty of, like The Witcher. I don't know if you've ever watched that, Drew, but I understand, like they're not the ones that came up with this story, but they deserve a lot of credit for adapting it accurately and enough in a way that is made for a very compelling TV show.
Yeah, I agree with you. And to answer your other question, I have not seen The Witcher. Isn't that based off a comic book too?
It's based off of a novel series that also has an incredibly popular video game series inspired by it. And so it's hitting a lot of different nerd circles. And Henry Cavill, Superman, plays the main character for the first few seasons of it. And he ultimately left the show because he was so dissatisfied with how inaccurate it was.
So I'm guessing he was a fan of the original content too, then?
He's just a guy who I mean, we know this from watching him with Superman, and he's a big Warhammer 40K guy. Like he's a guy who throws himself into the lore of whatever it is that he's doing or that he's into, and actually cares about it, which is, I think, something every comic book fan wants when they hear about somebody being cast in that role. Whether it's necessary or not is certainly up for debate, but it's what you want to hear, right? And he actually walks the walk, and so then when he throws himself into the material, and then the show decides, yeah, that's nice. And this is a internationally, so it's a Polish writer is the guy who wrote the series. So this is an internationally popular series. I know that this has gone, made millions and millions of dollars and has readers all over the world, but we know better. So we're going to tell our story because we know best. But to be clear, I'm harping on that show because it's another Netflix example. But there are many shows that have been like this, Drew, where or movies where they get the rights to something, and what the writer actually wants to tell is their own story that they haven't been able to get picked up by anybody. And so they get the rights to something else and then shoehorn the story that they actually want to write in there because they know best and their creative vision is the best creative vision. And it's an incredibly frustrating process to watch.
All right. Well, that wraps up our show for this week. Do you have a shout out, Cletus?
Yeah. So like I said, I have not read these. To be clear, I am not well versed in Secret Six, but I was kind of curious a little bit about the history of the team. And unsurprisingly, it's gone under some different revisions. The first appearance of Secret Six, Drew, came in 1968, titled Secret Six. And it's about six essentially random people that are pulled from their normal lives and are tasked with taking this guy down, being manipulated by somebody called Mockingbird. And it's an interesting premise, right? And so then the one that we're much more familiar with, I am very familiar with the concept of Secret Six. I've just never read the books. But the version that I am very familiar with is the Gail Simone version, which uses characters like we talked about, like Catman. And that first popped up in the lead up to Infinite Crisis in one of the miniseries, which was called Villains United. And in that, Lex Luthor is posing as Mockingbird, and he gets together a group of current and former villains, including Black Alice and Catman, and is using them towards his own means in the Infinite Crisis story. And I have actually, I think I've read a little bit of Villains United, or I've at least read highlights of it, because once upon a time, Drew, when I was a kid, was when Infinite Crisis was coming out. And my buddy and I went to the comic book store, and I got one of the tie-ins, which was the Rand Thanagar War, because it had Green Lantern in it. And that was the character that I had just started reading about. And my buddy picked up Villains United, and we were both pretty into the series, but then it led into Infinite Crisis, which we both read, which was quite interesting at the time. I don't think I fully appreciated everything it was doing with the history of comics at the time, but pretty cool.
That's cool. All right. And for my shout out, I'm going to shout out about Clash of the Titans from 1981, the classic version that was directed by Desmond Davis and was famous for its groundbreaking stop motion effects. It follows Perseus, son of Zeus, as he battles Medusa, the Kraken, and Calibos to save Princess Andromeda. It's been a long time since I've seen that movie, Cletus, but I remember watching it once or twice back in the day. And I don't know, I got Clash of the Titan vibes when I was watching this episode.
That's fair. I mean, especially when you see Hades and
Persephone
pop up. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that, Drew. That was, like I said, I really liked getting the Sandman version of that Greek story. So that was cool.
All right. If you'd like to comment on anything we've talked about tonight, you can reach us at our feedback line, 317-455-8411. Text us, leave us a message, or you can email us at legendsofthedcu@gmail.com. All right, Cletus, coming up next week, we've got Absolute Superman, Absolute Wonder Woman, Absolute Batman, 2025 Annual, and Absolute Evil #1. and of course, our next episode of The Sandman. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.